She insists she didn't know, and that Langston instructed her to give them the address. Langston got scared after Neagley and Dixon visited New Age. Marlowe says Swan was trying to stop the operation and tells them he had hired her for the security team. She reveals that Swan gave her information about Little Wing and that defective chips were sold illegally. She also says the upper management didn't know about the incident or the engineer's identity. Marlowe claims Swan asked Franz, Orozco, and Sanchez to help him investigate. After Swan's disappearance, Langston bribed her into covering up Swan's actions, threatening her and Jane. Marlowe decided to run with Jane, fearing Langston would see her as a liability. When asked about the chips, Marlowe tells them Langston's engineer must demonstrate the chip's installation in the missile. They plan to ambush Langston and his men at a meeting. Afterward, Reacher lets Chad go, advising Marlowe to find a hotel for shelter. At New Age, Langston talks to engineer Russell Johnson about a meeting with a buyer who wants to see the chip's installation and activation. Russell assures him it will be quick. Marlowe then calls Langston, telling him they're on the run from Reacher and his team. But Langston reassures her that he'll protect her if she keeps following his orders and arranges a meeting. At Russo's house, they bring Jane to him for protection. Reacher tells him about their ambush plan, and Russo mentions his meeting with Marsh and how he rejected the bribe. He assures them that Marsh won't harm him since they go way back. Russo plans to take Jane to his cousin's house on Staten Island. Before leaving, Reacher promises that if they fight, he'll let Russo have the first punch, but Russo says he doesn't need advantages. Neagley and Reacher watch as Marlowe hugs Jane, determined to make their plan work. Later, Marlowe meets Langston in an abandoned parking lot, but he proceeds cautiously. O'Donnell and Dixon are positioned on a double-decker bus while Neagley and Reacher flank them. Reacher gives Marlowe a phone and tells her to run when he says so. Meanwhile, Russo prepares to take Jane, but Langston's men follow them, and a high-speed chase ensues. Russo calls Reacher for help, and Marlowe overhears the call, fearing for Jane's safety. Langston realizes it's a setup and rushes to kill Marlowe, but Reacher and his team intercept. The others are ordered to help while Reacher confronts Langston. Neagley directs Russo to meet in Queens while Reacher traps Langston's car by deflating its tires. Russo struggles to shake off the car chasing him and decides to stop and fire back, telling Jane to stay in the car. Meanwhile, Reacher takes down all of Langston's men and tracks down Langston by redialing his phone. He's about to kill Langston when a helicopter intercepts him. Russo realizes he's cornered and help won't arrive in time. He tells Jane to run while he provides cover fire. Jane hesitates but agrees. Russo is critically wounded but manages to take out 2 of Langston's men before he succumbs to his injuries. The last of Langston's men, Grant, corners Jane and prepares to kill her, but Neagley runs him over with her car. Noticing Russo is hurt, Neagley rushes to his side and tells O'Donnell to call an ambulance. Breaking her rule of no contact, Neagley holds Russo's hand and tells him Jane is safe. Although the sound of an ambulance can be heard in the distance, Russo dies in Neagley's arms. After the shootout, the team heads back to Jade Motel. Neagley suggests hiding the Burns at Roscoe Conklin's house in Margrave, but Reacher disagrees, saying that Malcolm Lavoie already knew about their involvement in the counterfeiting operation 2 years ago. Reacher worries Shane Langston might find them there too, and doesn't want to put Roscoe or anyone else in Margrave at risk. Instead, Reacher suggests they hide the Burns somewhere far off the grid. Dixon then shares that after leaving the military, she worked in Buffalo at a debt collection agency for 6 months and rented a private place that can only be contacted via her cell. She trusts her friend Bob Lee, a former firefighter and landlord who helped her through a tough time. She knows Lee will help them. Reacher, calm as ever, assures them it'll all be over soon, just a few more to take care of. O'Donnell comes in, handing out energy bars, and Reacher lays out the plan. O'Donnell and Dixon will escort the Burns safely while he and Neagley take care of Drew Marsh, the guy who accidentally caused Russo's death. Later, Reacher and Neagley arrive at Marsh's place. Reacher tells Neagley to stay ready while he goes in. Marsh is hurriedly packing his stuff and grabbing the cash, looking like he's about to run. When Reacher makes his presence known, Marsh eyes his gun, but Reacher was expecting that. Reacher asks Marsh if his money is worth more than the life of an honest cop. Marsh denies knowing anything about Russo's death, claiming he was only trying to take the money, citing their shared history. Reacher says that history is the only reason he didn't kill Marsh himself, and that cowards like him are too scared to get their hands dirty. Reacher gives Marsh 2 choices: talk and turn himself in, or try to make it a gunfight. Marsh goes for the second option, but Reacher pins him to the wall. Reacher demands to know when and where the Little Wing missiles and chips are being sold to terrorists. But Marsh stays silent, though he mentions Grant, the guy Neagley ran over, might have the info. Marsh tells Reacher that Grant didn't die. He's in intensive care at Mount Sinai. Reacher, frustrated, shoots Marsh in the head and takes the cash to pay Neagley for her help. Back at JD's motel, O'Donnell and Dixon get the Burns ready to leave for Buffalo, giving them caps for disguise. O'Donnell tells Jane that everything will be fine, and shares how he teaches his sons to wear hats. After the Burns leave, Dixon notices O'Donnell's protective side, and urges him to drop the case since it's too dangerous for him. But O'Donnell won't back down. Later, back in the unit's days, Reacher informs them about a heroin deal set for that evening. Dixon reminds them they've been ordered not to go after it, but Reacher argues it's the culmination of 2 years of hard work. He knows disobeying orders could ruin their careers, but he believes shutting down this deal is worth it. Surprisingly, everyone agrees to go ahead with it. That night, Reacher's team arrives at the drug deal location, only to be intercepted by Lieutenant Hughes and his team. Reacher tells them to surrender, and Neagley and Lowry are tasked with keeping the soldiers under control while the rest search for narcotics. After a frustrating search, Reacher notices something odd about the tires, and, using a switchblade, uncovers heroin hidden inside. Just as they're about to arrest the soldiers, drug dealers rush in and the soldiers scatter. Neagley kills one soldier in a gunfight, and the rest of the team takes out the remaining threat. Hughes tries to escape, but Reacher runs him down and breaks his leg before arresting him. The next day, the unit celebrates, but Fields comes in, furious, telling them the unit is disbanded because the colonel blamed him for costing a promotion. Reacher refuses to apologize for what they did, and after Fields leaves, the team resumes celebrating. In the present, Reacher and Neagley visit Grant at the hospital, disguised as nurses. When Grant realizes who they are, Reacher threatens him into spilling information about the deal. Grant refuses at first, but after Reacher tortures him, he reveals the meeting is set for 5 a.m. the next day, though he doesn't know the location. Reacher then decides to end Grant's life by injecting air into his veins, killing him in revenge for Russo. As they leave, they run into one of Langston's assassins posing as a nurse. The assassin tries to flee, but Neagley and Reacher corner him. After a fight, Reacher kills him with a bone saw, frustrated that they won't be able to interrogate him. Neagley grabs the assassin's phone and Reacher calls Langston. In the parking lot, Reacher informs Langston that his assassin is dead, but learns Langston has captured O'Donnell and Dixon. Langston demands that Reacher and Neagley come to a facility in Rockland County to negotiate. Reacher decides to fake Neagley's death to buy them time, telling Langston that she's dead, but that he killed her assassin. Langston warns Reacher not to alert the authorities and demands proof of life for O'Donnell and Dixon. After the call, Reacher asks Senator Lavoie for help, and Lavoie agrees to provide security. At the R&D facility, Reacher and Neagley observe the tight security. After a bit of a delay, Reacher comes up with a plan to execute it from the inside. Meanwhile, O'Donnell and Dixon are being tortured by Parker and Lennox, with O'Donnell pointing out the hypocrisy in Lennox's actions. Reacher prepares to execute his plan but is worried about the unit's future. Neagley shares her fear that this mission could be their last. Reacher reassures her, but he knows the stakes are high. After their conversation, Reacher walks into the facility, but when Langston greets him, Dixon is shocked to see him alive, and the tension builds. Reacher gets brought to the facility, and Langston starts thinking about killing him. But when Langston finds out Neagley isn't in the morgue, he orders Reacher to get on the gurney. Reacher refuses, which leads to a fight between him and Langston's guys. Langston holds Reacher at gunpoint, demanding to know where Neagley is. Reacher taunts him, saying he won't kill him until Neagley is found, because she's the last loose end. Langston gets mad, shoots O'Donnell in the leg and orders Parker to remove the bullet to cover up the evidence. Langston then tells Reacher to sit down and starts interrogating him. Outside, Neagley is scouting the perimeter of the facility. She takes out the guards, which lets Seaver, Hart, and Beckett sneak in. Meanwhile, inside, Langston punches Reacher, trying to get Neagley's location out of him. He explains that his original plan was to steal the money and retire quietly, but Swan messed that up after discovering the chips were stolen and getting help from Franz, Orozco, and Sanchez. When Swan refused to join in, Langston framed him for the whole thing. Reacher doesn't give up any info and demands to know where Swan is. Langston shows him Swan's eyeball, revealing that he had taken Swan's fingers and eye to get past New Age's security before disposing of his body. Langston leaves and orders Parker and Lennox to load O'Donnell and Dixon onto the chopper. Neagley notices Lavoie's security arriving and sees O'Donnell and Dixon being loaded onto the chopper. Langston threatens to torture Neagley's father to get her location. He orders his guys to dispose of Swan's eye and takes some hardware from New Age's server. While this is happening, Reacher uses a pin to unlock his cuffs. At the same time, loud music blasts outside, and Pierce is told to get rid of the kids to avoid any witnesses. He goes outside and demands the music stop, but Neagley shoots him in the throat. On the roof, Xavier tries to break in while Hart cuts the facility's power. When they succeed, Richters gets his cuffs off, and Lavoie's security starts taking out Langston's men. As the shootout rages on, Lennox and another guard are by the chopper but get killed by Neagley, who joins Richters inside the warehouse. Langston and Parker retreat to the chopper to meet the buyer and leave the country. Richters spots them leaving and tells Neagley to cover him, as he runs and grabs onto the chopper's landing gear. Outside, Neagley and the others watch the helicopter take off. On the chopper, Langston orders Parker to throw Dixon out, but Richters climbs in and tackles them with O'Donnell's help. The fight causes Dixon to almost fall out, but Richters grabs her gurney, leaving him vulnerable to Langston and Parker's attacks. Parker threatens to smash Richters' skull with O'Donnell's brass knuckles or throw Richters out with Dixon. Richters blocks his hits, giving Dixon a chance to break free and stab Parker in the neck with a knife that was still in Richters. Langston is stunned and pleads for his life, offering to tell Richters who the buyer is and where the meeting is. But Richters throws Langston out of the helicopter. Avenging his friends, Dixon frees O'Donnell and forces the pilot to take them to the meeting. Later, they arrive at Russell Johnson's house and take Russell and the pilot captive in the barn. Soon, AM and Oleg show up, but Neagley shoots Oleg in the head. Richters takes AM for questioning, and they present the missile, accusing him of killing their friends over the weapons. AM denies it, but Richters knows he doesn't care about innocent lives. AM offers to be arrested but insists he has a top lawyer. Dixon asks him to reveal the buyer's identity, but AM refuses, not wanting to ruin his reputation. He tries to charm his way out by claiming he's just a middleman and prefers selling weapons to holding them. But that cost him his life. When Dixon, Neagley, O'Donnell, and Richters shoot him multiple times. After killing AM, the team recovers the bonds and the missile, then heads to the barn to meet Xavier, Hart, and Beckett. They discuss what to do with the pilot and Russell. The pilot insists he didn't kill anyone and only flew the chopper, while Russell claims he didn't know the chips were going to be used for anything bad. The team decides to let them go, and the two run towards the helicopter. As it flies over the Hudson River, Neagley fires the missile, bringing down the chopper and killing Russell and the pilot. After confirming the missile works, Xavier, Hart, and Beckett turn on them, as Lavoie had ordered them to cover up the incident. Richters anticipated their betrayal, having figured out that Lavoie is a corrupt official who covers up his messes. He'd already called Omar Karim from the DHS, and soon enough, Karim and his team arrest Xavier, Hart, and Beckett. Richters calls Lavoie to tell him the situation is handled, only for Omar to order Lavoie's arrest. Before leaving, Omar asks about the money, and Richters acts clueless, then walks away with his team. They stop at a diner, where Dixon suggests they give the money to the victims' families, and asks Richters to decide how to distribute it. Meanwhile, the news reports the helicopter crash as a system malfunction and pilot error, a cover-up by Omar. Richters decides to split the money between Angela Franz, Anthony Russo, Gaetano Russo's brother, Orozco's sister, and Sanchez's girlfriend, Milena. He also donates part of it to an animal shelter in Swan's dog Maisie's name, and arranges for Mr. Neagley to get round-the-clock care. That night, the team spends time at Rockaway Beach. Neagley finds out about her father's condition, and thanks Richters. When O'Donnell asks about his cut, Richters tells him there's nothing for him, but his kids are taken care of in a credit union for their education. Richters tells O'Donnell he's free to take any job he wants, leaving him speechless. Richters also starts a Delaware LLC under Dixon's name, encouraging her to work for herself, which she appreciates. When O'Donnell asks what Richters will treat himself to, Richters casually says he'll buy a new toothbrush. The team celebrates their last night together with a photo. Later, Dixon and Richters are at a motel, where she gives him a toothbrush and jokingly invites him to meet her parents. Richters is confused, but agrees. She's sharing a ride with O'Donnell to the airport, and they spend their last morning together. At the airport, O'Donnell and Dixon head home. Outside, Neagley notices Richters bought a Trailways pass, good for travel anywhere in the country for a year. She also admits she's not comfortable with no contact and gives him everyone's phone numbers, asking him to stay in touch. She also knows Richters thinks of the team as family, and he silently acknowledges it before boarding the bus. As they part ways, an old man on the bus asks Richters where he's headed and he has no answers.